my students asymptotes in class. Let me give you a real quick math lesson. An asymptote is present when the equation is a fraction with a variable in both the numerator and the denominator. There are 3 different types of asymptotes: vertical, horizontal, and slant. A vertical asymptote is when the denominator's value would equal 0. In laws of math, you cannot divide by 0. I always tell my students that if you divide by 0, the world would explode, and you don't want to be the reason we would die. So, whatever value of x that makes the denominator equal to 0 is the vertical asymptote. It's an imaginary vertical line that the graph will never cross because the graph does not exist on that line. With the equation set up as a fraction, there will always be a vertical asymptote. But there may or may not be a horizontal asymptote. If there is not a horizontal asymptote, then there is a slant asymptote. But here's the thing. For these asymptotes, parts of the graph will not cross the asymptote, but the other parts will. I was explaining all this and more to my students, and one student has had a profound idea. God's laws, His commandments, are the vertical asymptote. God created those laws, and He will not break them. He will not lie, kill, steal, break the Sabbath, covet, etc. And He doesn't want us to break those laws either. But the horizontal and slant asymptotes, God can and will cross those lines to save. He is able to perform miracles in contrast to what seems humanly impossible. In Exodus 14, God parted the Red Sea for the Israelites to pass through to escape the Egyptians. It seemed the Israelites were literally between a rock and a hard place. They had nowhere to go. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Joshua asked God to hold the sun still for a day, and God did just that. In Joshua 10, verses 12 to 13, Joshua spoke to the Lord, said, "Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon," and the sun stood still. The Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant and placed it in their temple. Their god, Dagon, was found fallen as if bowed down to God. 1 Samuel 5 gives the account of this story. Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again on the morrow morning. Behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both his palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. I love this story because it also shows God's sense of humor. In 2 Kings 4, we find the story of a widow who was about to lose her sons to repay a debt her late husband owed. Elisha advised her to get as many vessels as possible and pour her small pot of oil into each vessel. The oil did not run out until the last vessel was filled. She then sold them to pay off the debt. Then she came and told the man, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay the debt, and live thou and thy children off the rest." Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were cast into the fiery furnace for not bowing down to the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had built. Yet not a hair on their bodies were burned in Daniel 3. He answered and said, "Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." Jesus was born of a virgin. Isaiah 7:14 says, "Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Jesus fed 5,000 men, not including women and children, with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Matthew 14:16 through 21. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. Jesus walked on the water. Not only Jesus, but Peter as well. Not only did they walk on the water, but they walked on the water during a storm. And then Jesus calmed said storm. Matthew 14:24 to 31. And he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. In Acts chapter 12, Herod killed James, the brother of John, and to please the Jews, he arrested Peter with all intents to kill him. He was guarded by 16 soldiers. That night, while his church family prayed for him, Peter's chains fell off of him, and he walked out of the prison, past all 16 guards, and out of locked iron gates. And Peter was come to himself. He said, "Now I know of a surety that the Lord has sent his angel, and hath delivered me out of the hand of Herod, and from all the expectation of the people of the Jews." And what about Lazarus? In John 11, we find the story of a dead Lazarus. After being dead for 4 days, Jesus raised him back to life. The Hellenistic view influenced the Jewish thought that the souls of the dead person hung around for 3 days. But by Jesus waiting 4 days, he dismissed this thought from their minds and put their minds on the glory of God. Speaking to the disciples, Jesus said, "Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of his sleep. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent he may believe." There are so many horizontal asymptotes in the Bible, where God went against what seemed humanly possible to save someone. He continues to do such things today. He has sent angels to protect drivers on the road when there was no rhyme or reason an accident didn't occur. People have been dead only to come back to life with no medical reason. Similar to that of John Smith from the movie based on his story, Breakthrough. The miracles God has done go beyond what we ever deem possible. But because he is God, he created the world. He is able to control the natural world to save you and me. He is able to cross those lines that seem impossible to cross. He created the asymptote. He can cross it. He is a personal God who loves us and who interacts with us. He is a God of miracles who, through using natural law, is not bound by those laws, and who can transcend those laws when he wills. He created the sun. He can make it stand still. He created the water. He can walk on it. He created life. He can give it back. He created you, and he will do whatever it takes to save you, including controlling the nature he created. It is possible only by God's amazing grace. In today's hand lettering, I will be lettering Mark 4:41. Even the wind and the sea obey him. So I start with a white canvas, and I squirted a bunch of different colors all over it. Mostly blues, a little bit of green, a little bit of brown, a little bit of black, a little bit of white. And then put some plastic over it and maneuvered the paint all over the canvas to create kind of a wave effect, like what you would see at the ocean on a wavy day. Once that dried, I then took a black chisel tip marker and lettered the words on there. So join me as I letter.